Leading our bulletin this half hour, Trade Union Federation COSATU is disappointed in Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba's maiden budget. COSATU says the budget is silent on job creation efforts and is not pro-poor. Gigaba yesterday presented what he called a tough but hopeful budget. He said the budget aimed to provide a platform for renewal, inclusive growth and job creation. But his prescription has been rejected by several unions.
Disappointed. We had a very good State of the Nation address by the President last week, focusing on creating jobs and dealing with corruption. The budget was silent about corruption. People have looted the state, hundreds of billions of rands, and he's not said to us how are they going to recover that money to deal with the budget. Instead, what's happening, rich people have looted the budget, and we expect the working class, the public servants, workers, to plug the hole. So for us, it's a real disappointment. We're squeezing workers more and more. And I think we're also quite shocked and disappointed. There's been no focus on how we're going to create jobs in this budget.
COSATU says the budget is deafeningly silent on government's plans to create jobs and fight corruption. National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union says the budget constitutes a frontal attack on the gains of the workers. The SA Municipal Workers Union said they disagree that the poor will be shielded through the zero VAT rating on certain food items. The National Professional Teachers Organization of South Africa, meanwhile, has commended the budget, saying the VAT and personal tax increases are difficult but necessary trade-offs. Now, Chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance, Mr. Yunus Karim, joins us on the phone line. Mr. Karim, warm welcome to you. Now, as the ANC, you're saying that you were opposed to the decision to increase value-added tax, and you have raised these concerns to Treasury. Can you just elaborate on this?
Well, as you must have gathered from others who have commented on this, in general, value-added tax is regressive, meaning that it's the poor and lower-income earners who actually bear a disproportionate burden of the value-added tax increase. Mm-hmm. Now, it's true that we haven't increased VAT since 1993, and it may well be true that by the standards of developing countries, our VAT at now 15% is lower than theirs. But you see, we have the most acute inequalities in the world for which statistics are available, right, of any country. And secondly, we have very limited prospects of jobs. So I think in our case, we have to look at the specific circumstances to evaluate the need for this increase. Now, yes, we accept that there will be foodstuffs and other items and fuel that's zero rated. As a committee, we'll look at the matter this afternoon. We'll have public hearings next Wednesday. We'll hear from the Parliamentary Budget Office and the Finance and Fiscal Commission, and we'll come to some positions on that. So we accept that, look, there's also the cushioning effect of above-inflation increase in the social grants. We also acknowledge that there's going to be now higher rebates for those paying taxes in the lower income group. But we want to know what exactly Treasury has done in terms of an impact study to establish the effects of this 1% increase on poorer and lower income earners. So we're interested to see that. Now, obviously, on the other hand, the government is putting 57 billion over the next 3 years into fee-free higher education. The national health programs are going to be accelerated, and there are various other attempts to prevent, despite the expenditure cuts, social expenditure being reduced.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about his reasoning to say that we expect some much-needed relief because of the free fee higher education, that here, if you're a family and you were paying for university fees, you'll no longer, so there's also that relief and also the zero rated. Would you say that for families that never even had children in varsity at this time, then it's not a relief at all?
Well, no, I wouldn't agree with that. I think that it is a relief, but the question would be to what extent. In other words, the 1% increase in VAT balanced out against the other increases in allocation to the poor through various programs of government, and through, as we've said, the zero rating has to be evaluated. Too soon to say whether the negative effects of the VAT are completely eclipsed by the positive effects of investment in programs that will benefit the poor and lower income earners. At this stage, we can't say. We need more work on this. Parliament's research unit has to look at it. So I wouldn't want to give a decisive answer. We look at both the increase in the VAT and, on the other hand, the advantages of more investment in the poor. But at this stage, in general, it's reasonable to argue that while the investment in pro-poor programs will cushion to some effect the negative consequences of the VAT increase, it probably won't do enough.
Now, Mr. Karim, COSATU went as far as saying that essentially what this budget seeks to do is pickpocket the poor. Would you agree with that, or that's too extreme?
I can understand. COSATU is a trade union federation. They represent the working class that are organized in their union affiliates, and that's perfectly reasonable for them to say yes. But as a member of parliament and as an ANC member at that, never mind my Communist Party background and affiliation, I have to manage the ANC positions on this. And at this stage, we're saying, while it's reasonable for COSATU to say that, we have to also look at the position of National Treasury, consider public submissions from COSATU and other trade union and other civil society organizations, but share their view, and then come to see whether it's possible at all to arrive at some compromise between what COSATU and others are saying and what National Treasury is saying. But that's something that I can't speak for right now in any decisive sense.
No, Mr. Karim, thank you very much. That's Chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance, Mr. Yunus Karim, joining us on the phone line there, just giving us their initial views of the budget from yesterday.